before and after. Solid steel. Hey, welcome back to the channel. We are out here with the Titan Attachments 4-foot articulating flail mower, and we're going to do two things today. We're going to give you a second season review. We worked it hard last year, and we're going to tell you whether or not we think it's worth a flail mower versus a rotary cutter. And then we're also going to replace some teeth and do the maintenance for this year and show you what goes into maintaining a flail mower. So hang around to the end, because you probably will be surprised on what it costs to operate a flail mower versus a rotary cutter. So there's a few places you want to hit it with a little bit of penetrating oil. These cylinders have balls on them, so you can just hit those with a good shot of penetrating oil. Just a little bit up. And then everything else, all the other hinges, have grease points. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and pop off the filler cap here and make sure that our vent is clean. So this little pop vent right here, it's very important that you keep this clean. Otherwise, when it gets warm, when the gearbox runs, it gets warm, it builds up pressure, and if this vent doesn't allow the pressure to escape, then it's going to blow a seal out. So these are always very, very important to clean. How do you clean it? You're going to spray some brake cleaner down through the center of the hole. Well, that brake cleaner pulls the oil out of your skin. Probably should have gloves on. Yum, but it's clear.
That's gross.
So, well, no, actually it evaporates. There's really nothing left. So it's just basically
no
like
smooching for you.
No smoochie for me. So it's got a little check valve in there. So now what I've done is I've cleaned it out. I've blowed through it. I know that it's clear. So the next step is I'm going to put a little penetrating oil back in it to keep everything lubed up in there. And that is how I do cleaning my pressure relief valve. I can see the oil. The oil level is about right here. So I have no problem with the oil. Ready to put it back together. So now we got the cover off, we're going to inspect the belts, look for any kind of breaks. This is the time to replace them. You definitely don't want to do this in the field. These belts look pristine. So there's one season of use on them. They're a little flex, a little more deflection in them than I would like. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and tighten the belts up, and then I'm going to walk you through how you do that. There's two bolts here. There's one here and one here. I don't believe there's one on the bottom. Yeah, there's just the two, one here and one here. And then we'll use this bolt here. We'll loosen it up and tighten the top bolt down, and that'll pull the whole gearbox up. So what we'll do is loosen this real quick. You don't need it very loose, just enough that it can slide. Gizmo, you going to inspect my work, buddy? So those are just a little bit loose. So this apparatus here that pulls the belt tight is a little counterintuitive. You would think you would just tighten this bolt down, but the bolt bottoms out on the gearbox, so there's really nowhere for that to go. So here's how you have to do it. You're going to loosen this top nut a little bit, and then back this bottom nut down out of the way. Then you're going to take and lift the whole gearbox up. I gotta hold that top one because it's spinning. I'm just gonna lift that gearbox up using that nut. So here's our deflection. We still got a little bit of deflection. So again, I'm gonna hold the top where it doesn't spin. And crank down the bottom nut. That's pulling the gearbox up. And got quite a bit more tension, maybe a ½ inch of deflection. That's right in that sweet spot. So now we've got the belts tight. The next thing we're gonna do is tighten this back up so that it doesn't come loose. And how you do that is you're gonna go on the back side, screw the nut back up, and basically you're gonna clamp the two nuts together. Now that's not going to move. All right, so now that we have the belts tight like we want them, the reason you want that 1/2 inch deflection because you don't want these belts to be slipping, because once they start slipping, then they're going to burn up really fast. But once we've got the belts tight, these 2 bolts on the back, I want to tighten them down. And they're a locking nut on the back, and that'll keep this gearbox from having all the weight sitting on this little bolt here. That one's tight. So I forgot to mention this. We have to loosen these bolts up on this side when you're tightening the belt, and we didn't mention that. So when you go to tighten these bolts back up, you raise this side of the gearbox up, and it kind of makes it want to tilt down. So just get you a little pry bar, put up under it, lift it up so that it's level across the bottom. This is not rocket science accurate. It doesn't have to be. You just don't want it at an extreme angle. And that's all you got to do for that. All right, so this bottom grease fitting is the main bearing that runs the shaft all the way across. So it's very important that you grease this and keep it clean before you grease it. And you're gonna just put maybe 3 or 4 squirts in, maybe 3. And then each time you use it, maybe like every, maybe 8 hours of use, you'll go back here and hit this a couple times with your grease gun. So next thing we're gonna do is put the cover back on, and this is pretty much hemmed up. You can grease this bottom fitting through this housing. There's a hole for it, so you don't have to take cover off and grease it. Probably figured that was going to be a question. All right, the last thing on this side is we're going to grease the main roller bearing on the back of the Flail Mower. Flail Mowers have a roller on the back that goes all the way across like a drum. So you have to grease those bearings. I'll hit it 4 or 5 times and we'll go do the other side. So now we're going to grease the grease fittings on the arm. You ready? All right, the last part we're going to grease is this swivel point. The whole head of the unit swivels back and forth, and it's kind of hid out of the way. You want to have the Flail Mower extended out, and you want to have it level, and then you can reach right up in it. Again, making sure you wipe it down, send that fresh grease through it. So if I remember correctly, I have greased everything on the Flail Mower that needs to be greased and serviced everything that needs to be serviced. We are going to use some zip ties and tie up these hoses out of the way this year. Last year I pinched one because I didn't take the time to do that. So we'll do that now. Get it ready to mow. I'm excited. I'm excited. I don't know, probably people think I'm weird for being excited to mow. I'm gonna just put a couple here for now and then break these off and go buy some proper zip ties. So pretty good about it. Now we just got to change out some hammers and we're ready to go do a test mowing. So we're going to talk about cost now, and we're going to work our way into the review now. So let's say this is where the review part starts, because the big question I get all the time is does a Flail Mower cost more to operate than a rotary cutter? And the short answer is no, it doesn't. It is more maintenance intensive. As you can see, there's more places to grease, but if you do grease them and maintain it, it's going to last you a lifetime. Now let's talk about why I think that it's not as important. We probably have 50, 60 hours of use on this mower. We mowed a lot with it last year. And the very last day that I used it, I ran over a big giant piece of concrete, and the blades, you know, you can't mow concrete. Just saying, good rule of thumb, don't mow the concrete. However, we have mowed and mulched over like 3-inch oak limbs. It just mulches them away, doesn't care. But again, when you hit concrete, it's a little bit more than the rating of this unit. So we broke 4 blades, and this is why I say that running a flail mower is actually cheaper. If I had run the rotary cutter into concrete, it would have taken a big chunk out of the blade, and you can't replace that. It's gone. The only way you can repair that blade is to replace it. There is no fixing it. With a flail mower, these blades are roughly $7, $8 a piece. A rotary cutter blade, even the smaller ones, are over $100, but when you get into like a 5-foot or a 6-foot or 7-foot rotary cutter, the blades, one blade is like $200. So you hit a piece of concrete, both blades are damaged, you're out $400. Where with these, I broke 4 blades, they're about $8 a piece, and I can replace them as the damage is done. Again, I looked around, you can see that a piece of concrete hit this one. There's a little bit of damage here, not much. And then there's some that, this one, it actually fractured it. You see it fractured, so we're gonna replace that. And I got a couple more on that side. I got in a rush, I didn't check where I was mowing. Normally I go out, if it's somewhere new, I'll check the ground. I got in a rush and I damaged the mower due to my own lack of following my own rules. That's what was left. That's the before and after. So this is one of the hammers that took a hit, but it fractured it. It didn't break it all the way through. It took a heck of a hit to do that.
That's heavy metal.
Yeah, listen. Solid steel. When you tighten these down, there's a lock nut here. You don't want to pinch these together. This thing needs to stay free. You'll just tighten it down until you feel the resistance just a little bit. And this is a locking nut anyway, so it's not important that you just crank down. It always wants to be free. So we ordered 10 new blades, and we used 8 of the new blades, and some of them were just a little dull, so we're keeping those blades, and we will probably take the ones that are left over. We've got 2 brand new ones left out of the 10 that we got. We'll use the ones that we have left over. We'll resharpen those and just have them on hand in case we break one off later. So I think we're ready to go try it out for real.